What's up, everybody? UFC 307 is officially in the books, and it is time for me to give my full card post-fight recap and analysis. I will put the time codes down below, so if there's certain fights you want to hear me recap and discuss, feel free. But guys, I got to be honest, man. I thought that this was one of the most disastrous cards that we have seen in quite some time in the UFC. I don't know what it was, but watching last night, don't get me wrong, we had an outstanding main event between Alex Pereira and Khalil Rountree. Look, Poatan overcoming adversity. He's injured. He's got all these issues going on. Rountree, show him what an absolute warrior he is. He basically was in there standing toe-to-toe with Poatan for 4 rounds. We had some good moments on this card. But overall, the judging, it was disastrous. We have judges that don't understand clearly how to score fights, right? It seems like depending on who the matchup is, they're scoring fights a certain way. So to me, it just made this event very, very disastrous. It made it kind of hard to watch last night and incredibly frustrating. Thank God I didn't put any money on anybody. I mean, it just seemed like, I'm not going to go as far to say as robberies on multiple fights, but just some fights where it's the criteria of the judging, it's just off. It needs to be fixed. The system of the judging is just all over the place. They need to get this fixed, but let's waste no more time and hop into this. And we'll just start right away with the main event. I don't want to really go over the prelims right now. Let's start off on a high note, man. The main event was absolutely spectacular between Pereira and Khalil Rountree. Look, Alex Pereira, man, this guy, he's came into the UFC and in 3 years' time is one of the biggest stars in the entire sport. And there was a video actually I made here on my channel discussing about how, Izzy was like, I beat that guy one time. That's who Poatan was going to be. Look how the roles have reversed, right? I know we're trying to put the Izzy Poatan thing to rest, but this guy, man, in that video, I said, look, this guy, the UFC is going to start calling upon him. Why? Because every time when he fights, even though he's the champion, he fights as if he's not the champion. And what that means is he's going to go to war. He's going to go in there, he's going to put it all on the line, and it's either him or the other guy. And from what we've seen, most of the time it's going to be Poatan. But in this fight, I mean, here's the stat, man. No takedowns. 129 total strikes for Poatan, 62 for Rountree. This was a very, very entertaining fight, right? Alex Pereira, what we saw from him was a lot of what I think we expected. And one of the things with Alex, he's actually really basic, right? He's very, he's obviously really, really good when it comes to the striking, but it's very basic. He basically utilizes a jab and a calf kick, and we see the left hook. That's what knocks people out. But last night, the right hand was really that money shot, that straight right hand down the middle, which in my, breakdown of discussing this fight and why I picked Pereira, I said, look, I think he's going to rely a little bit on the calf kicks. Khalil Rountree has that Muay Thai stance. He should be able to deal with them, which it just shows you how sneaky those calf kicks are of Alex, because Rountree, that stance and that style in that Muay Thai stance, man, he should be able to catch these calf kicks on the end of the shin bone and check them to deter him from throwing them. And look at what we saw. So it just shows you that, look, this guy Poatan is special, man. The way he throws the calf kicks, the way he was landing the jab, the way he was throwing the right hand down the middle, he kept, he was buzzing Khalil Rountree. Khalil landed some good shots of his own. But what this comes down to is Alex Pereira is different. This dude is one of the most spectacular fighters we've seen in UFC history in terms of what he's done in such a short amount of time. But also the fact that it doesn't matter who you throw in there. This guy finds ways to win. We saw him in there against Jan Blachowicz. We've seen him in there with very different skill sets, and he goes in there with the same game plan. Jab, 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 jab to the body, occasional right hand, set up a left hook, beat your legs up. Turns out, man, I don't think anyone can stop this guy. And it's building us up to what I think is going to be the biggest light heavyweight fight that we've seen in quite some time, probably since DC and John Jones, which is going to be Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Because I think if there's anybody that's going to be able to beat Alex, it's going to be Ankalaev. And everyone keeps talking about, the grappling. I think it's the striking of Magomed that could actually give Alex some issues, considering Magomed, I think, has really, really, really good boxing. He seems like he's found a way to deal with some of the low kicks, which again, he struggled with those in the past. He's got a big fight with Rakic. This is building up to be a huge fight between these two, man. I mean, the significant strikes, 127 for Poatan, 61 for Khalil Rountree, 1 knockdown for Poatan. I mean, this fight was absolutely spectacular. It was fight of the night. It was pure violence. It was a special fight, man. It was the best fight on the card, top to bottom. Khalil Rountree Jr., This man absolutely brought it. There was a lot of noise, like he shouldn't be getting a title shot. It should be on Ankalaev. It should be this. And I feel like a lot of us felt that way. We can't deny that Khalil Rountree, man, his stock went up. This was a stock rising loss for Khalil Rountree, right? I know he didn't win the fight. He got battered around a little bit. He landed some good shots on Poatan. He was basically able to drop him. I couldn't tell if that was a slip or if he dropped him when Poatan threw a kick. Rountree stepped in. Khalil is very explosive. He's very dangerous. And to be honest with you, I think his confidence grows from this fight. I think that he should probably, he's probably going to spend some time away, took quite a bit of damage. This guy's spectacular. Poatan is spectacular. We knew, despite what you said about, Khalil getting a title shot or not, we knew when they booked this fight, it was going to be violence. This fight delivered. And like I said, when you put Poatan in the main event, he's going to deliver. Moving on. Co-main event of the evening, we have Juliana Peña and Raquel Pennington. This is a fight where we're going to be talking about controversy here. Was this a robbery? This was a split decision here that went Juliana Peña's way. And look, I said Juliana Peña was going to win this fight, and I was kind of manifesting it. And I know that some people are like, come on, man, like Raquel Pennington's the better fighter. She's a little bit more entertaining than Juliana. And look, Peña, she's going to talk shit on the mic. She's going to try to build up the fight. Whether you like it or not, at least she tries. She tries to make it entertaining. She brings a little bit of that bad blood feel to women's MMA. We've seen her on the microphone, talking about Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes. I don't know if Amanda Nunes is going to come back, but if she did, that would be a huge fight. But I think Juliana Peña versus Kayla Harrison, it makes all the sense in the world, right? Kayla Harrison coming off a spectacular win. Juliana Peña coming in here against Raquel Pennington. This is kind of what I think a lot of us thought that this was going to be. We talked about that here on my channel, that this was going to be a dogfight, and I think we saw that. Like, if you look at the stats here, Juliana Peña outlanded her. 2 takedowns, 1 submission attempt, significant strikes, they're even, but the 1 knockdown to Raquel Pennington, how much do you weigh that, right? Because in boxing, if you get knocked down in the round, it doesn't matter if you're winning the entire round. You get knocked down, you basically lose the round. So in MMA, like I said, the judging is kind of all over the place. It's very different. I don't know that I would say robbery here. This was definitely a very, very close fight. I think it maybe came down to that final round there, but nonetheless, this is what I was expecting. I was expecting a back and forth type of matchup where they were both going to have to dig deep. We were going to see both of them land good shots. I figured the grappling edge was going to go to Juliana Peña. We saw her land some good takedowns. We saw her take the back of Raquel Pennington. We saw some positive things. But if you talk about potential matchups moving forward, right, there could potentially be a rematch with Raquel Pennington, right? I don't think that that's off the table, but I can't see a world in which the UFC wants to rebook that, right? I think that they're like, man, if this fight was close, it was going to go to Juliana, right? It was going to go to Juliana. She's more entertaining. She's marketable for the UFC, I think at least. So a fight with Kayla Harrison, that's a big fight. It makes sense. It's one of the biggest fights they can make in women's MMA right now because of the grappling. How does that play out? Kayla Harrison being in a 5-round fight against Juliana Peña for the title, the grappling, the striking, like that would just be, sign me up. I think that that's a great matchup. But again, Raquel Pennington, this was a very, very close fight. So I could see potentially at some point them running this one back. But nonetheless, this fight is exactly what I expected, a back and forth dog fight. Oh man, moving on. Jose Aldo and Mario Bautista. This was one of the most frustrating fights of the evening and decisions of the evening. Now, when you look at the stat sheet here, you're going to see the total strikes 90 to Mario Bautista, 65 to Jose Aldo. I'm going to be honest, guys. I thought Jose Aldo won the fight. I thought Aldo won this fight. You see it here, 51 significant strikes to 49. And I get that these are statistics, right? When you're watching, in real time, you watch back, you're not exactly counting every single strike. Oh, 1, 2, what, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of just watching what's going on. Mario Bautista's stock went down here, right? His stock went down, in my opinion. Look, this is a guy that we've all kind of had, we've been holding in high regard in the bantamweight division, which is one of the best divisions in the UFC right now. You got middleweight, you got bantamweight, and you got lightweight. But look, Mario Bautista, like, his stock went down. It did. He went in there and basically just tried to implement the same game plan Merab did. Let me just push Jose up against the fence, hold him, do anything but actually fight. And we saw very early on, he was coming out with that chaotic, frantic pace, landing some good shots on Aldo, mixing up the takedowns, keeping him reactive and guessing, because we have seen that is how you can get to Jose Aldo, and that's how you can beat him, because he's very hard to hit clean. We've only seen a few guys do it, right? That the famous Conor McGregor KO. Outside of that, man, it is hard to catch Jose Aldo clean. His boxing is really good. He's got really good leg kick defense. His defense, he's got that good high guard. He is very responsible defensively all around, especially with the takedown defense. I mean, this guy's like impossible to get down to the floor, and you saw Mario it's like he wasn't even trying to do that, right? I know that he was, getting Aldo up against the fence, but you didn't even see him trying to run the pipe. You didn't even really see him trying to drag Jose Aldo down, in my opinion. Maybe I, need to go back and watch it a little more, but look, this is all off of real time when I watched it last night. Jose Aldo won this fight. He won the fight. Look, I understand grappling is part of the sport, but holding a guy up against the fence, basically just stalling minutes and stalling time, that's not a fight. If Mario Bautista has Jose Aldo flattened out on the ground, he's controlling him, he's landing some ground and pound strikes here and there, he's just dominating him and mauling him that way, that's different. Holding a guy up against the fence, just basically like waiting for the time to run by, like, it's ridiculous, it's disgraceful in my opinion, and this was a stock rising or stock diminishing win for Mario Bautista, in my opinion. Jose Aldo, again, no one wants to really stand in front of this guy. This was why I was hesitant in being excited for this matchup. I thought that Aldo was going to be able to tune up Bautista in this matchup. However, got to give credit to Mario for doing, I guess, what it took to get the job done. Incredibly disappointing route to take to win this fight. And he even says it basically in his post-fight interview. That was basically the game plan, to push him up against the fence and control him. And I mean, it's different if you're trying to land things. Like in the first round, it was active, it was this and that, and then it just, I don't know, boring. That's what gives grappling a bad rep, because I don't mind watching grappling, right? We got guys like Chimaev, we got guys like Oliveira, Khabib, Makhachev. They're looking to do damage with the grappling. They're looking to control you. They're looking to dominate, and I have no problem with that. But when we were holding guys up against the fence, just basically standing there looking over like, what's the timer? Let me just hold it. It's like, it's just, that's not fighting. That's not even wrestling. That's nothing. That's just stalling. I don't know. I don't like it. I thought Jose Aldo won this fight. He won the fight, in my opinion, by just landing better shots. He landed better shots and was willing to engage and strike, unlike Mario Bautista. Moving on. We have Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland. Now, this was a disappointing ending, right? We got Roman Dolidze by a TKO victory here, but look, it was Kevin Holland suffering a rib injury, and I think when he was trying to defend the takedown, or when he was trying to scramble back to his feet when when Dolidze took him down, he injured his rib. And obviously, if you've never injured your rib, going to be very hard to breathe, very uncomfortable. It's definitely a problem. It's unfortunate that it had to end this way. I did not like how Bob Perez, I believe is the coach's name, was trying to put it on Kevin Holland and be like, can you go, Kevin? Can you go, Kevin? No. As the coach, you make the call. You don't sit there and ask the fighter, what do you think you could go? Because now you're in the UFC, dude. There's cameras everywhere. There's microphones everywhere. You're putting that fighter's reputation and ego on the line, because you're basically giving them the opportunity to be like, I want out of this fight. And now you have a fighter that basically is like, I quit, I give up. And that's just, you can't do that. As the coach, throw in the towel. He eventually did, and he was like, no, it's over. He should have did that to begin with. Kevin, how you feel, man? He's griping, and he's like, I don't know, man. Then wave it off. Done. Don't throw it back on Kevin Holland to be like, do you think you can go? But we didn't really get to see much here. There's not much to talk about other than the fact that Roman Dolidze came out with very heavy pressure. Kevin Holland looked fast. He was landing some good leg kicks. But again, we've seen at middleweight with Kevin Holland. He's had a lot of success there, but where he struggles is against these big, filled out middleweights. You could see the size difference, right? Holland's a tall, lanky guy for 185, but when it comes to like just being like, like a thicker human being, he's just not there. And these other middleweights are a lot physically stronger than him, and they're able to dominate him when it comes to the grappling. I think that, to be honest with you, unless Holland was able to catch him with something, we were just going to see Dolidze probably lay and pray and kind of, well, I shouldn't say lay and pray because he was going to be a little active with the grappling, but I think that we were just going to see him dominate Kevin on the floor. Holland was going to spend most of the rest of the fight on his back. Nonetheless, not a lot to take from this other than Roman Dolidze. He looked pretty good. And we get, from what we saw, much better than the Anthony Smith matchup. But again, not a lot to go off of here. But again, a big win for Roman Dolidze, because this is a guy that I feel like a lot of people, we've all kind of been hard on him. He's not that great. He's kind of just a guy. And he goes out there and gets a win over a ranked Kevin Holland, which I know Dolidze's higher up in the rankings. But Holland's a big name. People like him. I know he's not exactly a world beater. Still a solid win for Roman Dolidze. Moving on. Ketlen Vieira and Kayla Harrison. So this was a fight that I was actually really interested in, right? I know a lot of people were like, it's WMMA, I don't want to watch it. Look, show some respect at times, right? I mean, Kayla Harrison is one of the just most credentialed athletes when it comes to combat sports that we've seen. And, to be as good as she is with the judo, see the improvements in the striking. I think that she still looks a little raw on the feet, but she is improving. And anytime we see a great athlete and you teach them different things, they're going to improve very quickly. And I think that that's what we're seeing with Kayla Harrison. She was landing some good inside low kicks. She was landing a good left kick to the body. Ketlen Vieira was just it was just hard for her to open up, because anytime she tries to open up and you overextend, you're now allowing Kayla Harrison to get in, get to a body lock, run the pipe, whatever, take her down, back her up against the fence. Kayla Harrison, this was one of in my opinion, this might have been the biggest win of her career. Right? She's over in the PFL, which I had always said one of the biggest, questions I had was, look, well, let's see Kayla Harrison in the UFC, obviously, but for me, she was so limited in the PFL. Look at her ground and pound. It's nasty. She has the nastiest ground and pound I think we've ever seen in women's MMA, without question. I mean, she is not only a very physically strong individual, but she has nasty elbows. She's got vicious ground and pound, and if she can add in some, I know she's got some submissions, but if she could be a little bit more proactive when it comes to the submission aspect, she's going to be a real problem. I mean, because like we were just talking about in here, a fight with Kayla Harrison and Juliana Peña, very interesting to me. Very interesting. And I do think that the altitude, obviously, that's a factor for everyone when you go to Utah. I think it definitely was a factor against Kayla Harrison last night. She got a little bit drained to me because we've already seen her against Holly Holm. We've seen her in numerous 3-round fights before. It seemed like she looked a little fatigued to me. Now, could some of that be the weight cut? I don't know. But in a 5-round fight, which we really haven't seen much of her in that would be a title fight, obviously, against Peña. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. But like I said, we are constantly seeing improvements from Kayla Harrison. She looks better on the feet. She's in there asking her corner, Mike Brown, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And listening exactly to what he's saying. Mike Brown's like, look, extend the combination, step through, get to the body lock, push her up against the fence, look to get her into the clinch, take her down. Perfect game plan by Kayla Harrison. She did what she had to do to get the win. Like I said, constantly improving. 2 takedowns landed. She outstruck Ketlen Vieira, but again, a lot of those were ground and pound strikes as well. Significant strikes, 55-24, but I would say the most significant shot of the evening actually was that elbow from Ketlen Vieira that caused that little hematoma on the forehead of Kayla. But nonetheless, great performance by Kayla Harrison. I always look forward to watching her fight because I think that she's kind of a once-in-a-generation athlete here in our time that we're seeing in women's MMA with the grappling, the judo, everything that she has. She's just super physically strong. I like watching Kayla Harrison. I'm a big fan. Moving on to the featured prelim of the evening, and actually, outside of the main event, this was probably maybe the other best fight, one of them. I mean, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Joaquin Buckley, this was what I was afraid of for Wonderboy Thompson, and Buckley did exactly what I thought he was going to do. Look, I sat up here and I said, guys, look, Wonderboy is the better striker. If you're going to stand on the feet and you're just going to try to play a back and forth kickboxing fight with Wonderboy, you're probably not going to win. You're going to get outpointed. You're going to get set up. You're going to get caught with some shots that you don't see coming, which a few of those high kicks of Wonderboy almost landed. And you can see the totals here. Look, he outstruck Joaquin Buckley, but then you saw the difference here. The 4 takedowns for Buckley, which I give credit to Wonderboy. Buckley wasn't really able to do anything with those. Wonderboy was popping right back to his feet. But again, like I said, Buckley down at at 170, having that strength that he had at 185 is the exact same at 170. He's very explosive. He's very dangerous. And with that grappling, he's a problem, man. He's a problem. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and wrestle, because he called out Kamaru Usman. Maybe we see him against Bilal or somebody like that in the future. I've said Buckley's a dark horse to me in this division, and the reason for that being is he kind of gets overlooked. People have this mindset of just journeyman once in a one-time highlight, that spinning back kick that he landed at Fight Island, and they're just like, he's just a guy. Joaquin Buckley is a contender at 170, ladies and gentlemen. He is, whether you like him or not, the guy is a contender. He is dangerous in this weight class. He's very physically strong. He's very explosive. He has good takedown defense. His grappling is constantly improving, and that Mike Tyson peekaboo style where he was able to finally get to Wonderboy in the third round, absolutely nasty. And that's what I said before, man. That was one of the reasons I picked Buckley to win this fight. I thought he was going to mix in the grappling. I didn't think he would have much success, which he didn't really. He was able to take him down, which was impressive. But Wonderboy popped right back up. It was the fact that Buckley was able to just go in there and fight Wonderboy. You saw that he's like, I'm going to mix in some takedowns, but he's not like, I'm just going to jab and leg kick, and I'm going to move here, and I'm going to move there. He's like, no, I'm going to come after this guy. I'm going to bite down on my mouthpiece, and I'm going to lunge forward and do what it takes to get the job done. And look at what happens. He goes in there. In the third round, his coaches are like, probably down 2-0, man. Maybe it's 1-1, probably down 2-0. Goes in there with some urgency, is able to brutally KO Wonderboy Thompson, which we really haven't seen other than that Anthony Pettis Superman knockout, which was maybe a little bit of a fluke, but outstanding performance. No fluke about that leaping right hook that looked like Mike Tyson in there. Incredible performance by Buckley. I want to see him and Kamaru Usman next. That would be a title elimination bout. I think Joaquin Buckley is just looking unstoppable at 170 right now. Incredible performance by Numancia. Moving on. We have Marina Rodriguez and Lasmin Lucindo. So this fight, I thought Rodriguez won this, right? I'm not necessarily going to say robbery here. Maybe I could because I'm a little biased because I picked Marina and I got the pick wrong, but I really did think Marina won this fight. Look, Lucindo kind of has that style where she's moving forward. She's got kind of the head movement going. She's throwing kind of the bigger, loopier shots, where Marina, she's kind of moving around all kind of quirky and funky and throwing those, very straight, good, clean shots. Nothing is looking out of sorts when it comes to Marina. And I said, look, I've said this before, guys, if you're mixing up the targets, if you're throwing a lot at the opponent, to the judge's eye, it just looks good. But if you look at the total strikes, 65 to Marina, 55 to Lucindo. The 3 takedowns, definitely something that factored in here to 1 for Marina Rodriguez. But to me, we look at total strikes and the takedowns, and it's like, okay. And then we look at the significant strikes, the edge goes to Marina Rodriguez. So I thought Marina won this fight, but again, I wouldn't go as far as to say robbery. Like I said, I picked her, so I'm feeling a little way. But in all honesty, with no bias in this, I think that Marina Rodriguez really did win this fight. I thought it was very close, but either way, man, this was a good back and forth. Marina Rodriguez is clean on the feet. She's very technical. Lucindo is very young. I'm excited to see what she could do in the sport because she's got power. She's dangerous. But like I said, very close fight, good back and forth matchup between the two. Moving on. Austin Hubbard, Alexander Hernandez. So split decision here. Another one where I'm like, I'm not going to say robbery, but I thought Austin Hubbard won this fight. And when you look at the total strikes, 91 for Alexander Hernandez, 65 for Austin Hubbard. And then significant strikes, we got Hernandez 79, Hubbard 63. So I don't really know kind of what to make of this when I was watching it in real time, looking at the stats. Of course, looks like Hernandez won the fight, but in real time, the significant, more damaging shots to me were coming from Austin Hubbard, who was a threat to finishing the fight. I think Austin Hubbard landing some of the shots that he was landing on Hernandez were a little bit more fight-ending threatening compared to what the Great Ape was landing. But nonetheless, man, Austin Hubbard, I thought it was close. I thought that he was able to get the job done, but a good bounce back for Alexander Hernandez. The guy needed a win. He was coming off a couple losses there. I was kind of critical. I'm like, we haven't seen this guy really look particularly great since the Donald Cerrone fight where he got pieced, or since before that, because he ran into Cerrone, got pieced up with that nasty combination. Maybe the most picture-perfect combination we've ever seen in MMA history. Then he's finally able to come out here against a solid solid, well-rounded guy in Austin Hubbard. Big win for Alexander Hernandez. Again, another very, very, very close fight. But you see what I'm saying here? The judges' criteria, it's like, what are they going off of here? Because you get a guy that outstrikes the other guy, but then sometimes they're evaluating damage, sometimes they're evaluating volume, then it's all over the place. It's a problem. They need to fix this. They really do. But moving on to the middleweight division here, Cesar Almeida, Ior Potieria. I got to be honest. This fight was a disaster. This was an absolute disaster. Look, Cesar Almeida, he's a guy that I tend to gravitate and lean towards. Why? Well, he's a former Glory kickboxer. I've watched him in Glory. He's very fun to watch. He's got good striking. But this guy, man, he's sticking his finger straight out in the air like he's John Jones. He kept poking Ior in the eye. Would he poke him 3-4 times in the eye? That's going to play a factor in Ior's performance. The guy's worried about getting gouged in the eyeball every time he closed the distance. And we saw him outstrike Ior. Don't get me wrong. Almeida was definitely the better striker in there. But when you're constantly poking somebody in the eye, you're going to make them fear entering range. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm getting poked in the eyeball numerous times, I'm going to be scared to come into range. I don't want to, be blind, so I'm not going to keep getting poked in the eye. We saw 3 takedowns landed from Potieria, 1 submission attempt. That guillotine was actually pretty tight by Almeida. I thought he was going to be able to finish that there, which would have been crazy. But the significant strikes, Almeida 57-44 by Potieria. Make no mistake about it. Outside of the eye pokes are what dampen the performance for me for Cesar Almeida. If there's no eye pokes and we remove that aspect of it, he absolutely was the better fighter. He's landing very, very, very good shots, good, clean overhand rights. They were rocking Ior Potieria a little bit. The power of Almeida, the leg kicks, the way he was able to switch stances and mix things up. Almeida is nasty on the feet. He's a guy that the UFC is clearly trying to build. They gave him a little bit too much too soon with Roman Kapilov, considering Almeida's up there in age. They got to kind of rush him a little bit. This was more of a layup style matchup. We need to see the guy and we need to see Almeida start finishing people. That's the truth. If he wants to kind of blow up, towards the end of his career here and try to make a run at this thing, he's got to start finishing people, because I can tell you right now, you throw Almeida in there with any ranked middleweight right now in the division, I don't think he beats any of them. Maybe you can pick a guy here or there, maybe he has a chance against. I think the grappling is a real problem. He's very easy to take down. He's very good on the feet, but he seems very unathletic to me in terms of the lateral movement, being able to get out of the way, sprawl, and get back to his feet. I don't know. The takedown defense of Almeida, definitely an issue. But like I said, I don't think that they're going to give him many grapplers moving forward. They're going to try to build him because he's an entertaining style fighter. But yeah, it was dampened a little bit because of the eye pokes, but still a great performance by Almeida. Almost done here. Ryan Spann, Ovince St. Preux. This was a fight I discussed as saying, I don't know what to expect here, right? If Ryan Spann shows up, the actual Ryan Spann, the guy that's fast, the guy that's dangerous, he's going to be able to get OSP out of there. He's got great power. He's fast on the feet. He's explosive. I was like, this dude's going to be able to win. He's going to be able to get this thing done. But again, it was kind of questionable at first. We saw him landing some good shots. We saw OSP it just looked like OSP was a step behind the entire fight. Ryan Spann has great power. He's fast. It's just a matter of him showing up. It's kind of like the Derek Lewis effect. If you could get Ryan Spann to show up, if you could get him, to be that guy that I think we all have seen the flashes of, this dude is very, very dangerous. He's very athletic. He's got good speed. He's got good power. Ryan Spann with an outstanding performance. This was a much-needed win for him. It was a big win. This was a fight that I thought if he is ever going to have another, shot at possibly making a run at this thing, he was going to have to get a finish over Ovince St. Preux. He did just that. Big win for Ryan Spann. Moving on. Almost done here. Carlos Esparza, Tisha Pennington, a.k.a. Tisha Torres. I thought this was a robbery, guys. I thought that this was a robbery. Either way, fight very close. But again, Carlos Esparza, her final fight, we knew it coming into this that this was going to basically be her retirement fight. I thought she landed more strikes. We saw it here. She was landing some good strikes on the ground. 4 takedowns landed. I mean, significant strikes did go to Tisha Pennington, which was on the feet a little bit, but we saw Carlos Esparza control her with the grappling, land some good shots on the ground. We just, again, judging all over the place. They got to get this fixed. You can't be scoring fights differently depending on who it is. To me, it felt like they knew Carlos Esparza was retiring and they're just like, hell, give it to the person that's sticking around. I don't know. I thought that this was a bad decision. I thought Carlos Esparza won the fight. Moving on, finally here, Court McGee versus Tim Means, the retirement home fight, the OGs, man. Court McGee put on a good performance. He actually went out there and dominated Tim Means. The fight actually wasn't even close. Tim Means just looked slow. He looked lethargic. He looked like he was just not ready. He just looked like he wasn't ready for the grappling of Tim Means. I don't know what the deal was there, but Court McGee, absolutely dominant, was able to take Tim Means down, able to control him, get a submission, and get him out of there. Great performance by Court McGee. But if you guys enjoyed this, give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. I would appreciate it. See you next time.